wabarakatuh. Good morning to all our sahabat Indosat Ooredoo Hutchison and all hero who are watching wherever you are. So how are you doing? I hope you're all fine and feeling energized on this lovely Thursday morning. So before we begin, leave down a comment of where you're watching from because I'd like to see where most of our audience are from. Hi, I'm Natasha from Indosat Ooredoo Hutchison, and I will be your host today on our very first episode of this, the IOH Show. This is a virtual conference that will air once a month on the Indosat Ooredoo Hutchison YouTube channel and a workplace for all our hero employees. Here, speakers of diverse backgrounds and expertise take stage to present ideas and life experiences on the most relevant topics of today. In this, we will explore and discuss the latest talk of the town topics according to our speakers' esteemed experiences and visions and, of course, opinions. So stay tuned, as this talk show will surely be exciting and very, very insightful. So what's for today? We will unwrap Metaverse. The term Metaverse is literally everywhere. So Microsoft acquired the game developer Activision's Blizzard, saying that this deal will help start building blocks for the Metaverse. Facebook founder Mark Zuckerberg renamed his social networking company as Meta, and Google has worked on Metaverse-related technology for years. So what does Metaverse really mean, and does it even exist? I'm sure you've heard this everywhere and you want to know more about this. So today we'll unravel a bit more on Metaverse with our honorable speakers. So let's wait no more and let me introduce you to them. Today we have the Global Director for Strategic Partnerships at Meta, Karan. So within his role, he focuses on driving growth, connectivity, and messaging programs with mobile ecosystem partners. Karan is very passionate about helping bridge the digital divide and actively works on varied initiatives to bring first-time internet users online. So in addition to incubating and scaling strategic partnerships at Meta for the last 5 years, Karan has led partnerships, transformations programs, and consulting engagement across e-commerce, retail, travel and telecom companies across Asia Pacific and Middle East. Wow, what an extensive resume. So good morning, Karan. How are you today?
I'm great, and that by far is probably the most fabulous introduction that I've ever received. So clearly looking forward to this discussion, but really happy to be here, and thank you for having me here.
Yep, likewise, we're very happy to see you here. So our second speaker is our very own Chief Enterprise Data Analytics Officer, Chirag Sukhadia. So he was appointed for his current role in January 2022. So with 25 years of experience, Chirag is seasoned business executive. He has thrived in the corporate world across 3 countries and global organizations, mostly in the telecommunications sector. He was the Vice President of Strategic Business Planning at Hutchison 3 Indonesia for 10 years, from 2011 to 2021. Prior to that, he was the Group Head of Business Planning and Analysis, Maxis Berhad, overseeing Malaysia, India, and Sri Lanka operations. Wow, very impressive. So good morning, Chirag. How are you today?
Good morning, Natasha, and very happy to be part of this first IOH show, and looking forward to this session along with Karan from Meta. So very happy to be here.
Yep, looking forward to your presentations. Well, I see that everyone's very excited about today's discussions, but before we get into it, I want to let you know that we will be having Q&A sessions later. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the comment sections below, and our speakers will be more than happy to answer them. All right, so let's get right into the main part of today's talk. First up, we will be hearing from Chirag and his take on Metaverse and how telco's role is actually having on this Metaverse. So please, Chirag, the screen is yours.
Very good morning to all the viewers of this IOH show. And we are very happy to have you with us today, Karan, in this session. And viewers, because Karan is from Meta, it makes my life a bit easier during this session. We all look forward to getting the first-hand real understanding about Meta and Metaverse, Karan, from you. I will attempt to cover a few aspects of Metaverse from a broad perspective, and I will also touch upon how the digital telcos will impact Metaverse or vice versa. So if you can get the slides on. For those of you who have been following for the Mobile World Congress 2022, Metaverse was the talk of the town. And there was a lot of showcasing by various tech companies and telcos on this subject. So what is Metaverse? Next slide. The term has gained a lot of attention and popularity in the last couple of years. Not sure if you all know, it was coined by American writer Neil Stephenson in his 1992 novel, Snow Crash. A speculative epic whose action takes place in two parallel worlds, primary physical reality and the online virtual metaverse existing alongside it. Metaverse was later also imagined as the oasis in the novel Ready Player One, which came out as a game too. Again, it refers to a fully realized digital world that exists beyond the analog one in which we live. So how do we define it? It is a simulated digital environment that uses augmented reality, virtual reality, blockchain, along with concepts of social media to create spaces for rich user interaction mimicking the real world. But when we talk about metaverse, I cannot not mention Meta, so Meta explains metaverse in a bit more customer-oriented, simpler, and practical manner. They talk about metaverse as a virtual space where you can create and explore with other people who are not in the same physical space as you. You'll be able to hang out with friends, work, play, learn, shop, create, and many more things can be done. So if you go on to the next slide and let's try to understand what is the current state of metaverse. The term today refers to a variety of experiences, environments, and assets that exists in the virtual space. As you can see, there's Minecraft, Roblox, Fortnite, there's Decentraland, Second Life. Of course, Meta's Horizon Worlds, Microsoft's Mesh, many forms of metaverse exists today. Now, if you or your kids have played these video games in which players can build their own worlds, or if you own a NFT, the non-fungible token, or even just some cryptocurrencies, you are part of the early metaversal experience. If you have attended a work meeting or a party using a digital avatar, you are treading into the neighborhood of metaversality. So from that perspective, metaverse in current form and shape is already here amongst us, though it's just the beginning of a long journey ahead. Well, I had my own very first experience of metaverse back in 2008-9, and of course at that point in time I didn't even know the term, right? But when I was with Maxis Malaysia, we used Second Life and created these avatars for virtual online meetings, not knowing that this will grow into a full-fledged metaverse in the years to follow. But if we talk about some recent, how metaverse has evolved, right? Fortnite made more than 9 billion revenues in 2018-19. Players spend money to dress up their characters in superhero costumes and banana suits. A Travis Scott concert held within Fortnite in April 2021 drew more than 12 million concurrent views. And of course, there was another concert by Ariana Grande and a few others. In the first quarter of 2021, people spent nearly 10 billion hours playing Roblox. More than 42 million users logged in each day. Players spent, like 650 million on the site's virtual currency Robux, which can be used to purchase hats, weapons, hot air balloons, and many other digital items for their characters. In May 2021, interestingly, a digital Gucci bag was sold on the platform for more than $4,000, exceeding the price of the physical object itself, right? So if you see in its so-called primitive form, it's already here. And the metaverse appears to have gained momentum during the online everything shift due to the COVID pandemic. Now, if you move on to the next slide, right? As the world becomes more interconnected, let's see how the ecosystem is being evolving, right? As the world becomes more interconnected than before and the COVID-19 pandemic pushes people to go digital in all ways possible, a universe beyond the physical realm seems enticing. But as one of the users put it correctly, right now, we can create an avatar, but we can't jump from one world to the next, from one virtual space to the next. So in its entirety to function, Metaverse ecosystem is dependent on three key aspects as per what we understand as of now. One is presence, or the hardware or the devices itself, the interoperability along with standardization, and obviously the adoption by the consumers. When we talk about presence hardware, right, using various VR tech powered devices like headsets and glasses, the feeling of actually being in a virtual space is achieved. Its progressive growth and development will continue to make lasting impacts on our technological culture. Huge investments are being made by all the tech companies, be it Meta, Microsoft, Google, and many others. When we talk about interoperability, it means being able to seamlessly travel between virtual spaces with the same virtual assets that you have bought on, say, one of the virtual space that you have been. But not only between the virtual space, it's also between virtual and the real world. So developers must produce content and software that is compatible across multiple platforms to construct a persistent and continuously evolving metaverse. As with other ICT technologies, common technological standards are essential for widespread adoption. We know that, for example, in telco, we have GSMA, and so those common standards will be required. And of course, the connectivity will be provided by telco operators, and we will cover that role of telcos in next few minutes in the future slides. A customer adoption, it's very important. The user base for VR is exploding not only among the young consumers, but also across all demographics, thanks to the shared familiarity with virtual interaction brought about by the pandemic. And as the devices become more affordable and the experience becomes more richer, more and more consumer base will adopt the metaverse. So many people in the tech believe the metaverse will herald an era in which our virtual lives will play as important role as our physical realities. But of course, it might have its own dangers and challenges. We hear of abuses, we hear of some frauds and stuff like that, even in the early days. But let's save that for some other day. Yeah. So if you move to the next slide, and let's look at what kind of business propositions are we talking about, right? Bloomberg Intelligence recently estimated that the metaverse market size would reach around USD 800 billion by 2024. And as per some other forecast, it is even estimated to be 8 trillion and more by 2030. So there's a huge potential out there, yeah. A fully realized metaverse needs to be global to ensure that everyone can benefit from this revolutionary phenomenon. As the metaverse is an always-on digital space powered by the internet and open standards, its potential is starting to get unveiled in different industries. The chart here shows, how new value chains will be developed and offering new business opportunities. For example, right, at an infrastructure level, there will be opportunities for hardware and software companies. The metaverse will require a plethora of new devices at the user interface, ranging from visors and haptic feedback devices to the more mundane smartphones and personal computers. Enabling services include, for example, e-commerce, entertainment, search and reference services, social media, cloud services, and so on and so forth. The service economy will give rise to new markets for payment, security, cryptocurrencies, blockchain, asset management, including crossovers between virtual and physical worlds. New content opportunities will be there in terms of creative arts, design, innovation. So huge business potential out there. If we move on to the next slide, there are various business propositions arising, right? And if you see here, right, this slide shows that whether it be smart manufacturing, healthcare, education, advertising, event tourism, virtual cities, public services, you name it, right? All these industries will benefit in terms of experience, efficiencies, and also business gains from the metaverse. All these business opportunities can be clubbed under three broad arenas. If we talk about whether maybe it's collaboration, problem solving, and training and events. And if we move on to the next slide, we can see some use cases, right? How things would pan out in Metaverse. Now, this is a very basic visual illustration of how the use cases in Metaverse would look like. Obviously, gaming is one of the current biggest use cases, and a lot of emphasis is on it. The early Metaverse experience is mainly through the gaming platform. But apart from that, if you see, as we can see here, right, there will be digital entertainment events, right? Fashion shows, concerts, and a lot of other events can be done on the Metaverse. Virtual advertising, what you see here is actual Gucci garden, which they kind of created virtually on Roblox platform, right? The gaming platform. And that's where, they sold the Gucci purse, right? Healthcare, as we speak, even today, right? Surgical residents are practicing procedures, using Oculus headsets via VR. John Hopkins neurosurgeons relied on VR during a spinal fusion operation, using augmetics headsets and digital twins and stuff like that. And of course, then we have education, training, manufacturing, e-commerce, we would be surprised that, there is virtual real estate being sold and purchased in Metaverse. So everything is happening. Of course, one of the close to telco use case would be, the customer service, where, we can have virtual customer service centers and take care of the customer needs in the Metaverse. Very, very immersive, enriching experience, right? We can give to the customers. And the list can go on. It's in Metaverse, our imagination will only be the limiting factor. In future, imagine scaling Everest, swimming with the hammerheads, or even skydiving from the Grand Canyon without even leaving your own room. In its fully realized form, the Metaverse promises to offer true-to-life sights, sounds, and even smells, where a tour of ancient Greece or a visit to the Seoul cafe can happen from your own home. So it's big, right? Everything can happen. It's only what your imagination is, and you can do it in Metaverse. But what role does telco have to play? And if we move on to the next slide, right? This slide shows that telcos will have to focus on partnerships and ecosystem development. Huge investments will be required. Telcos will have to partner with tech companies to create the right infrastructure, the right ecosystem. And not only that, government support in terms of framing appropriate regulations and laws around Metaverse will also be very, very important. We need to tackle the issues of openness, standardization, as I spoke earlier, privacy, security. Telcos are gearing up on getting the right resources in terms of people and the skill development for this futuristic business. The strategy will have to be built inclusive of the Metaverse ecosystem. And in terms of the investments, 5G is already being rolled out. We all know, across the world. And it should be able to give good baseline capabilities for the current stage of Metaverse. But as Metaverse evolves in the future, the telco infrastructure will also have to be upgraded with enhanced fiber network, edge computing, the 6G, and so on and so forth, right? Faster connectivity and reliable experience will be the key. And the end game is to provide a high-speed connection to the consumers, for this Metaverse experience. It can go up to 2, 3, 4, 5 Gbps, in terms of the speed. The latency will become very important, right? We need ultra-low latencies. Currently, if we talk about average latencies in the telcos, would be around somewhere between 60, 80, 90 milliseconds. But in Metaverse, we would require 10, 12, or even a single-digit latency. So telcos will also have to work with tech companies in ensuring the interoperability, which again is very key for smooth and reliable experience in Metaverse. But this is not only the future, right? If we see, and as we go on the next slide, we will see that few countries and operators have already started and initiated their foray into this Metaverse ecosystem. For instance, SK Telecom from Korea. and AT&T, right, and NTT Docomo, China, and few others. They have already kind of initiated the metaverse experience for the industry, to say so, and for their own customers. So to conclude, right, and taking a clue from, I talked about Mobile World Congress, Barcelona 2022. So what was kind of envisaged there is that Metaverse has a huge business potential. We saw that, right? Maybe it can be 1 trillion to 8 trillion, depending on how things shape up. Positive steps in the right direction have been initiated by all tech giants and big telcos. A lot of aspects within the ecosystem needs to be addressed and might not be very smooth as of now. There'll be elements which will lend themselves to a metaverse-like experience in the current and near future. It's going to be long journey, but this life-changing metaverse is here to stay for sure. So I can only say this, friends, let's pack up a bag to metaverse and enjoy this journey. So thank you, and that's pretty much what I kind of have to share about metaverse.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chirag, for the presentations. Wow, I've gained some pretty cool insights, actually. For one thing I know is that I'm actually already a part of Metaverse, and it's not something completely new, right? Even my son is a member of Metaverse already. Like, he plays Roblox and Fortnite all day. So he's definitely the member of Metaverse already. Okay,
absolutely.
And
that's
telco actually, play a very key role, in Metaverse, the telecom companies.
True.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to what Metaverse will bring to the table and how we can actually, grab the opportunity. All right. So next up, you're going to hear about Metaverse straight from the representative of Meta. So today, Karan will share his views on Metaverse and how Meta is actually going to tackle this. So Karan, hi. Please, the screen.
Well, Chirag, thank you for such a great introduction to the Meta. I think it's always wonderful when our partners that we depend on so much to creating and building this metaverse have such a depth of experience behind it and are equally excited about the journey to the metaverse. So thank you for setting that up. I think that was great. So my name is Karan. I think as I introduced myself in the beginning, I lead mobile programs for Meta. And today it's my privilege to give our perspective on the metaverse and maybe give you a glimpse of the future that we're hoping to build together. And hopefully with that, if you can bring up the slides. Awesome, thank you. Let's get started. Let's get to move to the next slide. And so why are we here? We are here to obviously talk about the metaverse, but we're also here to talk about the shift that we are going through right now. And the shift is not very different from what our generation has seen before. In fact, I vividly remember I was super excited about the time that GPRS was first launched. Imagine GPRS as a telco. And later we went on to have the same sort of experiences in 3G, 4G, and more recently 5G. And each one of those has had a profound impact on the way I experience the internet. In fact, Facebook's, and I use the word Facebook instead of Meta, own success came when it actually navigated that shift from web to mobile. And so the shift to the metaverse is very similar. It's really what we are doing is we're building the next version of the internet where multiple innovations like Chirag talked about, which is Web 3.0 and crypto and many other technologies are going to essentially become the foundational pillars of this new internet. And so with that, move on. And so let's define what the metaverse is. As I explained before, it's really the shift from the mobile internet to our Web 3.0 internet. And we call it really the successor to that mobile internet. But no one can really explain this better than Mark. And so I'm going to turn this over to him for about the next minute to provide you an introduction about how we think about the metaverse and what the future holds for it. Could you play the video?
keep talking.
An embodied internet where you're in the experience, not just looking at it. And we call this the Metaverse. The Metaverse. The Metaverse. Everything we do online today, connecting socially, entertainment, games, work, is going to be more natural and vivid. Whoa, all right, that's a little too realistic. Now this is more my style. We believe the Metaverse will be the successor to the mobile internet. And you're going to be able to do almost anything you can imagine. All right, perfect.
Boy.
Oh, hey, Mark. Hey, what's going on?
Hi, Mark. What's up, Mark?
This place is amazing.
The feeling of presence. This is the defining quality of the Metaverse. You're going to really feel like you're there with other people. You'll see their facial expressions, you'll see their body language, maybe figure out if they're actually holding a winning hand. All the subtle ways that we communicate that today's technology can't quite deliver.
I knew you were bluffing.
Avatars will be as common as profile pictures today, but instead of a static image, they're going to be living 3D representations of you. Beyond avatars, there is your home space. Your home is your personal space from which you can teleport to anywhere you want.
Koi fish that fly? That's new.
This is wild.
The metaverse isn't something we're building so much as it's something we're building for.
Across the industry, we need to bring that same imagination and commitment to building for interoperability, openness, safety, and privacy as we do for all the other product aspects of the metaverse. These have to be fundamental building blocks, just like the other software and experiences that we've been talking about. Our hope, though, is that if we all work at it, then within the next decade, the metaverse will reach 1 billion people, host hundreds of billions of dollars of digital commerce, and support jobs for millions of creators and developers. We are fully committed to this. It is the next chapter of our work, and we believe for the internet overall. Beyond the constraints of screens, beyond the limits of distance and physics, beyond any one company, and that will be made by all of us. And I'm just incredibly energized to be on this journey with all of you. That was fun.
Good job, Mark.
Today, we're going to talk about the metaverse.
Let's move to the next slide. All right. Well, we apart from the technical difficulties with the sound at the beginning, which I'm hoping we can fix later, I hope you found that exciting. I personally get pumped every time I hear it. So as you saw, and I think as Chirag mentioned, some elements of the metaverse already exist today, though in a limited capacity. I mean, you're familiar with the mobile internet, which allows and shows us what's possible when you're not tied to a desk. And you may have experienced augmented or virtual reality when you can add layers of new experiences to our physical and digital environments around us. And I think as we talked about at the beginning, our kids are already immersed in Minecraft and Roblox. And so they've proven that we can step into these other worlds straight out of our imaginations. But the metaverse will feel different. And please move to the next slide. But the metaverse will feel different, especially as we focus on the defining attributes of presence, persistence, and interoperability. And as they mature for both customers and businesses. Let me get that into a little bit more. Presence is that feeling that you're really there with another person or another place, playing, shopping, working, creating, and many more things. Persistence is about having access to the metaverse anytime and having that continuity between experiences and spaces. So you can take the things that you like and that make you, like a piece of digital clothing or artwork, anywhere on the metaverse. And it has to be interoperable, meaning that you should be able to access the metaverse from many different devices in different levels of fidelity, from apps on phones and PCs to immersive VR and AR devices. Next slide. So the common question we are often asked is, what is our role in building the metaverse? And when we say our role, we might mean to say Meta's role, but we really mean everyone's role. Next slide. Because the metaverse can't be just built by one company. It's just not possible. There are too many layers, too much infrastructure needed to make what we imagine to be possible. So whether it's the telcos or every other leaders in the space, we need to all work very closely across the different groups and set a strong example for the architects of the metaverse to ensure that certain standards and principles are upheld and we're setting the right examples. At Meta, we believe our role in this journey is to essentially accelerate the development of these fundamental technologies, whether it's platforms or creative tools that will bring the metaverse to life, or to weave those technologies together through our own social media apps. So many of our current as well as future investments in hardware, software, and systems that you'll see are all meant to drive that acceleration. Next slide. So with all that said, while we invest in the future for everyone, we are not turning away from our existing foundational products. In fact, our past investments in communities, creators, commerce, and computing platforms like Oculus only help to articulate our vision for the future. And our foundational apps, products, and services will be a crucial part of that metaverse ecosystem. So how can our businesses leverage that metaverse today? Given that elements of the metaverse are already at play, sorry, I'm a little distracted by our slides maybe not catching up, and I think that's the metaverse at play. Given that all the elements of metaverse are already at play, you can see how these everyday technologies are already adding value across the marketing funnel. In fact, there are foundational products from Meta that you can leverage today that will help you start building. For example, live shopping that can encourage virtual commerce, or leveraging Meta Spark to change 2D interactions to 3D experiences, trying AR try-ons on ads or on avatars, or capturing that new marketing or storytelling perspective from the Ray-Ban stories that we recently launched, and sharing that with your broader community as we develop a different point of view. Next slide. So understanding these critical building blocks will allow customers and businesses to act faster when these new technologies come to the center of consumer behavior and allow you to meet your customers where they are. In fact, some of the ideas that we are already dreaming up within our shops include trying out Facebook or Instagram Shop and turning it into a virtual space in the metaverse for people to experience your products and brand as they would do in a physical shop. Or car dealers finding new customers if they were able to offer virtual test drives in the metaverse that can be scheduled on Messenger or WhatsApp. Or allowing service-oriented businesses, both big and small, such as painters and broadband services, who might be able to do home consultations on the metaverse using WhatsApp video calls for customer support. Or finally, just partnering with creators on Facebook or hosting a live event in the metaverse so you can deepen that engagement with your community and your brand. So what's next? Let's move to the next slide. For modern businesses, we believe that metaverse will be the biggest opportunity since the creation of the internet, presenting, I'd say, a magnitude of immersive ways to engage with existing as well as new customers. Next slide. This gift of time will really help us set us all up for success. We've seen the immense growth and opportunity that has come from shifting from offline to online, online to mobile, and we will see that continue to see that exponential growth as we move on from mobile to whatever it is that is next, including the metaverse. Next slide. So our roadmap over the next decade is ambitious. It is because we believe in the future. We will have virtual worlds where we'll see digital overlays on top of physical locations, or we will have mixed reality experiences that bring the two together under a technical foundation that we are building together with all of our partners. But none of this exists today. It just doesn't. So we can't, and we won't ask you to do much right now. Next slide. But if, as businesses, you feel the metaverse is still a long way off, the mobile internet has shown us that when we level the playing field, we see increased economic opportunity for everyone. From creating a digital storefront to messaging a customer around the world, the mobile internet has expanded a business beyond its physical shop and put it into everyone's pocket. So the last 10 years have enabled a new way to personalize these experiences, to meet people's growing expectations for how they want to engage with businesses. We believe the metaverse will only enhance this trend. We're committed on creating this metaverse together with our partners and creators in a way that empowers individuals, businesses, and creates opportunities and anticipates issues. Next slide. And I think, as Chirag said, the reality is, even though the reality is that we are really early in this journey, it's time to get started in this journey. And as we have historically done, we'll first work on getting the experience right for our people and customers, and then we'll create the right ecosystem around that for our partners. And as always, we look for everyone's help in creating this future together. Thank you.
Karan, very, very exciting to see that we can finally realize what we can only see in the movies when we were kids, right? We can only imagine what we did, watching the movies with the people in holograms and whatever when they're not actually there. Now we can actually realize it in the metaverse. If I was seeing your presentations, we can actually go out on dates on metaverse, right? All right.
Well,
so very, very
I think
exciting.
definitely. I'd say, things like gaming, dating, I think these are always ahead of the curve, right? And so I think we probably will see our first experiences in the metaverse, probably, getting innovated there.
Yeah. So very excited to see how it will turn out, how we can actually advance the metaverse using the telco connectivity, and of course with Meta there, who always supports this kind of initiative. All right, so to continue the excitement, we will now head over to the Q&A sessions of today's This. I've scrolled through the comment sections and found some very interesting questions that I'm sure these two gentlemen will be very interested to answer. So the first question is for Karan. So Karan, to what extent will Metaverse replace the physical world? Wow. Will it actually replace? To what extent do you think? Because now you can actually do a lot of things on Metaverse. You can do gaming, you can watch concerts, right? You can buy things already without going to have to go to the store. To what extent will this replace the physical world?
I'd say, the way I think about it, we probably all thought about everyone being glued on their computers a few years ago when the mobile internet came across. Of course, to an extent, everyone is glued on their phone, so you may say that they've replaced physical experiences. But I think the way we think about the metaverse really is, it's meant to enhance those physical experiences in a way that you can then engage with brands or with your friends or work through these augmented experiences that allow you to put on an additional layer, whether it's an entertaining layer or whether it's an information layer. So I would say not so much replace, but I would call it more augmenting the physical experience, allowing us to break down boundaries when they stand on our way of experiencing the full potential of those experiences around us, right? Could be connecting with colleagues that are across the world in a more immersive way, or visiting places that we possibly couldn't do physically. And so I think there are so many use cases that I think stretch across that imagination that provide us great examples of how this is really an immersive, enriching way of experiencing the physical world around us.
Yeah. So it's basically just supporting our physical world, right? How we can optimize and maximize the physical world, and Metaverse is there to support. So Chirag, do you have any feedback on this? Do you have any input?
No, I completely agree. It will kind of coexist along with this physical world. But what will happen is that, our physical world experience will become all the more enriching, with this metaverse experience, right? Basically, so it cannot completely replace. But like we said, the things that we are not able to do in the physical world because of, space, time, whatever, right? Basically, we will be able to do in a much enriched manner in the metaverse or the virtual world. And that's what is the key, basically.
All right. Thank you. So while I have you here, Chirag, another question is for you, actually. So should there be any minimum bandwidth needed for Metaverse users? And does our 5G technology speed already cover the needs for telco industry? So what do you think about this, Chirag?
So, like I had mentioned, right, that 5G should give a good baseline, to the metaversal experience. But in its full potential, I think it can the requirement for the speed can go up to even like 2 Gbps, 3 Gbps, and onwards, right? Basically, and that's the reason that all the telcos will have to upgrade and enhance their networks in the next few years. Obviously, it cannot be right now, but to 6G and the newer technologies to provide that bandwidth, and more importantly, the latencies. The latencies need to be like maybe 10 or even a single digit latency, because that will become very, very important.
All right. So thank you so much, Chirag. So of course, we'll play a big role in this metaverse. We'll provide access, we'll provide connectivity to make sure that people actually can access metaverse. All right. So the next question is for Karan. Now, how do you think that we can access metaverse? Do you think that will there be only one metaverse? What do you think about this? Or are we like creating another verse out there to complement metaverse?
Yeah.
What do you think the future would be?
No, I think this is a great question. And I think I'd like to answer it in two parts. I think one is technically, I think the foundational layers. What I think personally is that we're going from this concept of Web 2.0 to Web 3.0. And the entire concept of Web 3.0 has to be more interoperable. It has to allow for the foundational things that make up the internet today, it to become more decentralized. And so I think, as I mentioned in my presentation, those concepts of persistence, which is you should be able to access the metaverse from anywhere, plug into it anytime, carry your digital goods that you buy from one metaverse platform to another. The fact that it should be interoperable, it doesn't mean you should always have to wear virtual reality glasses to access the metaverse. You should be able to do it on your mobile device or on a PC. And so those concepts of interoperability, of persistence across any medium, any place, I think are all really much at the center of the metaverse. I think, and that's why I think people are so excited about it. That and that's probably why we say like the metaverse is not about one company. It is about the ecosystem coming together and building the next version of the internet, which will be boundaryless, where your digital self will travel seamlessly between these worlds and carry whatever assets and your passions along.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Absolutely. We can access it, and I'm very sure there will be more developments in the coming years. So, Chirag, what do you think about this? Any take?
If I may say this, Zatasa, that as humans, say a few hundred or thousand years back, right? We would think of Earth as where we exist, right? And then the came concept of multiple planets in this universe, and now we talk about even in the physical reality, right? We talk about multiverse, right? Not even the universe. So in the same concept, right? This metaverse is not going to be a single metaverse, definitely. Again, as I said, that probably in the next few years it will have to evolve, but we will see that there'll be multiple metaverses into the ecosystem, and like Karan rightly said, right, that interoperability moving from one to another, from virtual to physical, will all be very enriching, very immersive, and very, very useful. We don't know how life will pan out. Honestly speaking, I'm sure Karan would agree that what we see right now, we probably don't even know how things will be in the next maybe 10 years later, right? There will be a lot of new experiences which might come on. So from that perspective, it definitely is going to a multiple metaverse ecosystem.
Yeah, very excited to see how our kids will actually experience metaverse. Maybe that's metaverses, a lot of metaverse 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, etc. Very, very exciting.
I love the fact.
Yeah.
I love the fact that Chirag is a Marvel fan, because he blended the concept of the multiverse very seamlessly with the metaverse. I think like science fiction is such a great way to like kind of predict and kind of look at what lies ahead of us, right? And so I think to your point, like we can really kind of look at the crystal ball, looking at science fiction.
Yeah, agree, because that's where, like I said earlier, you can only imagine it in the movies, as science fictions. Now you can actually realize it. So very, very exciting. So, Chirag, how can we monetize metaverse now? Especially the opportunities for IOH too. So how do you think we can do this?
No, so see, let me tell you, right? I mean, monetization, as I talked about in my slides also, right, that there will be multiple industry verticals which will be impacted positively, through in this metaverse. The first thing that, for example, if you talk about telco, right, that we can do a lot of customer experience or customer service through the metaverse platform, right? And once it gets enriched, it can happen two things. It can bring in efficiencies in terms of cost, and the richer the experience for the customers, they will stay. The engagement will be very high, and there will be a lot of opportunities in terms of getting more ARPUs or revenues out of it. Now you see how, for example, Gucci, right? Basically, they sold a digital or a virtual bag for more than the physical bag price, right? Basically, and so it all depends that how we as a telco or any other industry embrace this whole metaverse culture. For IOH, I can just say that I mean, for my all hero friends here, they all know, and for the viewers also, that our vision is very clear, right? We have set out our vision to become the most preferred digital telco in Indonesia and even Southeast Asia. Now, on our journey on this digitalization internally for IOH and externally to empower every Indonesian, right, is our first step, how I see, which will lead us to metaverse. We know that we have already entered into very strategic partnerships with a lot of tech companies, including Meta for Karan is here, but Google, Meta, and a lot of other companies. So definitely, there's a very big potential for IOH and all other telcos to monetize this space.
Yeah, agree. Totally agree with you, Chirag. I think there's a lot of opportunities that we can do, a lot of monetizations, a lot of new business that we can actually develop in the metaverse. Any take on this, Karan? How do you think that Meta specifically can monetize the metaverse?
Well, I think Chirag, coming from the IOH kind of perspective, I think summed it really well. But I think, I'll just second to that, right? I think there are so many opportunities that are created for this whole ecosystem, whether it is the telco or beyond. But again, just thinking of from a purely telco perspective, I think the opportunities lie obviously in the core business. I mean, the metaverse is going to become the killer app / use case for why people will pay that extra money for 5G, right? So I think it makes a great investment, therefore, to grow and scale these 5G networks. But I think to Chirag's point, there's also a huge opportunity that exists beyond traditional telco services. The metaverse is supported by these foundational new capabilities of payments built on crypto or digital assets and NFTs built on asset management. Now, these are all areas that telcos have increasingly gained more strategic sort of importance as well as capabilities in. And so it's very natural that you take, again, those capabilities, whether they're in mobile payments towards crypto and all these other content areas that we talked about. And so I therefore call it like the exponential opportunity, right? I think for companies that are willing to really think beyond, I think, the box, so to speak, I think the opportunities are exponential.
Yeah. Agree. So we actually already started, to monetize the metaverse, like you said, with mobile payments, mobile money and whatever. It's already there, actually. So how we can make it an exponential growth, that's our homework. Okay, so last questions to both of you, actually. So what will be the key action items to fasten the transformations of metaverse adoptions into the society, especially to Indonesia's young generations, and allow us to let our children be part of this metaverse journey? So how can we get ready for metaverse? So let's start with Chirag.
So like I said, that in bits and pieces, right? Basically, our kids and a lot of other consumers are kind of experiencing the metaversal ecosystem or the experience, right? But as more and more investments go into it, see, what will happen is that the devices, right, in terms of glasses or headsets and all, as they become more mass, and it becomes more affordable, then it will ensure that customers adopt that. As the experience becomes more enriched and immersive, right, then again the consumers will be very eager and to adopt this entire metaversal experience. So these are the key things that I think as a as tech companies, as telcos, and also the regulations, whether it is government or the regulatory authorities, right? Because initially we have already seen some cases of, whether we call it abuse or fraud going on into this very nascent stage of metaverse. So that also needs to be addressed. As and when in the future these things get addressed, right, then the growth will be exponential. And these are the things that as tech companies or telcos, we should focus on. That's what my thought is.
Yeah, yeah. So we're almost there. It's just about keep adjusting, keep adapting, and be agile to the changes that is going to be brought by Metaverse. All right. So Karan, how do you think that we can fasten the transformations and adoptions of Metaverse into our society?
Well, I think we're on a journey and we're already kind of on our way. But I really look at it as sort of three fundamental areas that I think that we focus on every day, and I think that definitely is a strong foundation. I think the number one is our creators. And so if you look at the success of the mobile internet today, especially with over the last couple of years, as you've seen sort of the dominance of video and entertainment, the creators are going to be at the center of creating the metaverse experiences. So for all the creators that are out there, it would be about getting becoming early adopters of those technologies and getting familiar with those setups to see how those creative juices can flow in the metaverse. I think the second one for me is the partner ecosystem. And so whether it's a telco or a bank, just the foundational capabilities or enabling services which will make the metaverse tick. I think there's a lot that will happen there. And I think much of it is, in fact, again, a continued evolution of, I think, things we are doing today. So it's just building on the work. And then finally, to what Chirag mentioned, right, I think the regulators, the government play such an important role in supporting any new innovation. And so as we move to these new technologies, we're providing the necessary support so that, again, both from an experience perspective or whether it's managing the risk infrastructure, they play a supportive role, I think, in create those examples and an environment in which the metaverse can flourish.
Great. So people, partnerships, and the regulations. Great. Very
Creators,
strong.
yes.
Yeah, very, very strong, Karen. All right. So, well, that wraps up our morning today on the first episode of the IOH Show series. We have explored plenty on Metaverse and on several things that we can prepare for. So I hope that you have gained some insights from today's episode of this, as much as I did, if not more. So once again, thank you so much, Chirag, and thank you so much, Karan, for your time and sharing your insights, your opinions, and your visions about the Metaverse. Very interesting and intriguing this morning. Bye. See you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you very much for hosting.
It was a pleasure. Thank you, Natasha and Karan. Thank you for being on the show. It was a good experience. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next month, we will be having an exciting discussion to dig deeper on Metaverse with awesome speakers. So make sure you don't miss out on the second episode of this. So that's it for today. It has been a pleasure to host you in the first episode of this. See you next month. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.